The massive cargo ships appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. Their hulls gleamed with alien metals that caught the sunlight in strange ways. People across the planet stopped what they were doing to stare at the sky. After decades of searching for life among the stars, life had finally come to them. Junho Kim stood in the United Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the live feed from the lunar surface. Mountains of twisted metal and broken machines covered an area the size of a small city. Smoke still rose from some of the wreckage. The smell of burned circuits and melted plastic drifted through his helmet as he walked among the debris. "This is their gift to us," said Commandant Nexus through the universal translator. The tall, blue-skinned alien towered over the human delegation. His four arms moved in what seemed like dismissive gestures. "Your species has been classified as Tier 3. This is appropriate technology for your level." Junho picked up a piece of what looked like a weapon barrel. It was heavier than it should. And the metal felt warm to the touch. Strange symbols covered its surface. Even broken, he could see the craftsmanship was beyond anything humans had created. "You call this scrap?" asked Dr. So-Young Park, the team's systems analyst. She knelt beside a cracked computer core that pulsed with faint blue light. "This is still functioning." Nexus made a sound that might have been laughter. "Those are outdated systems from wars your species cannot even imagine. The power cores are unstable. The weapons are centuries old. The ship parts come from vessels that were destroyed because they were too weak to survive real combat." Dong-wook Lee, their weapons specialist, ran his hand along what appeared to be a cannon mount. Even damaged, it was clearly more advanced than Earth's best military hardware. "How many different species does this come from?" 17 different civilizations, Nexus replied. "None of the parts are compatible with each other. The power systems use different energy types. The computer codes are written in languages that died out before your son was born. Even if you could understand the technology, which you cannot, you could never make any of it work together." Miran Choi, their best pilot, stood beside the twisted remains of what had once been a starship cockpit. The pilot's seat was built for a creature with 3 legs and arms that bent in impossible directions. But the control surfaces still responded to touch, lighting up with symbols she couldn't read. "Why give this to us at all?" she asked. Nexus crossed all 4 arms. "The Galactic Council believes every species deserves a chance to prove their worth. You have 6 months to show that humanity can contribute something useful to galactic civilization. If you fail, Earth will be marked as a protected primitive world. No further contact will be allowed." "And if we succeed?" Junho asked. "You won't," Nexus said simply. "No Tier 3 species has ever successfully integrated technology from multiple Tier 1 civilizations. The task is beyond your capabilities. But the Council is generous. When you fail, you will be allowed to keep whatever small understanding you gain from studying these relics." After the alien ships departed, Junho's team spent 3 days just walking through the debris field. The scale was overwhelming. Pieces of starships the size of city blocks lay scattered among smaller components. Some sections still had atmosphere, their force fields somehow still active despite being torn from their parent vessels. "Look at this," So-Young called out. She had found a section that contained what appeared to be a laboratory. Strange devices lined the walls, and floating holographic displays showed incomprehensible data. "This is just one room, and there's enough technology here to advance human science by centuries." Dong-wook discovered an entire weapons bay from some massive warship. The guns were larger than Earth's biggest cannons, but they were built with an elegance that made them almost beautiful. "These aren't just weapons," he said, running scanners over the alien metal. "They're works of art." Miran found herself drawn to the engine components. Massive drive units that could have powered ships larger than Earth's biggest cities. Even broken, they hummed with residual energy. "The power output readings don't make sense," she reported. "According to our instruments, some of these engines are still producing more energy than our best reactors, and they're not even turned on." But it was Junho who made the first real discovery. Deep in the debris field, he found a section that contained computer cores from different species, all connected by some kind of universal interface system. The screens showed data flowing between systems that should have been completely incompatible. "They did it," he whispered. "Someone figured out how to make different alien technologies work together." So-Young joined him at the display. But look at the damage patterns. This wasn't from normal wear. These ships were destroyed in battle. So the technology works, Dong-wook said, but not well enough to keep the ships alive in combat. Or, Miran suggested, they were just outnumbered. That night, back at the lunar base, Junho called a meeting with his core team. The room was small and cramped compared to the vast alien spaces they had been exploring, but it felt warm and human in a way that the advanced alien technology did not. Nexus expects us to fail, he said. The Galactic Council expects us to fail. Maybe they're right. Maybe this task is impossible. But? So-young prompted. But I've been thinking about what makes humans different. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We don't have the best technology. This is supposed to be encouraging? Dong-wook asked. Junho smiled. We're survivors. When humans find something that doesn't work, we don't throw it away. We fix it. When we find things that don't fit together, we make them fit. When everyone tells us something is impossible, we do it anyway. Miran leaned forward. You're talking about building something from this scrap heap. I'm talking about building something that has never existed before, Junho said. The aliens see incompatible junk. I see the pieces of the most advanced starship in the galaxy. We just have to put them together. So-young pulled up the inventory data on her tablet. 17 different civilizations, hundreds of different technologies, power systems that don't match, computer codes we can't read, materials we don't understand. Exactly, Junho said. No single alien species would even attempt this. They're too specialized, too focused on their own way of doing things. But humans? We've been combining different technologies since we invented the wheel. The wheel didn't require understanding quantum mechanics in 17 different alien languages, Dong-wook pointed out. No, Junho agreed. But the principle is the same. We take what works, we adapt what doesn't, and we never give up. Miran stood and walked to the window. Outside, the debris field stretched to the horizon under Earth's blue glow. 6 months, she said. 6 months to prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars, So-young added. 6 months to build the impossible, Dong-wook said. Junho joined Miran at the window. The alien wreckage looked different now. Instead of a graveyard of failed technologies, he saw a puzzle waiting to be solved. A challenge that would require everything humanity had learned about adaptation, innovation, and refusal to accept defeat. 6 months to show them what humans can do when they're underestimated, he said. The next morning, work began in earnest. Teams of engineers, scientists, and technicians arrived from Earth. The lunar facility expanded rapidly as more personnel and equipment were transported up. Everyone understood what was at stake. This was humanity's one chance to prove they belonged among the stars. As Junho watched the first alien components being carefully transported into the analysis bay, he felt a familiar excitement. It was the same feeling he'd had as a child, taking apart broken machines to see how they worked. The same thrill he'd experienced in engineering school when a seemingly impossible problem finally yielded to human ingenuity. The aliens had given them scrap, expecting them to fail. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. 3 weeks into the project, the lunar facility hummed with constant activity. Workers moved in shifts around the clock, carefully dismantling alien components and cataloging every piece. The debris field that had seemed like random junk was revealing its secrets one fragment at a time. Hei Jin-yoon wiped sweat from her forehead as she examined a piece of alien hull plating under her microscope. The metallurgy lab had become her second home. Around her, samples of 17 different alien alloys waited for analysis. Each one had properties that defied human understanding of material science. This shouldn't be possible, she muttered, for the 100th time that week. The metal in front of her was lighter than aluminum but harder than diamond. Under extreme heat, it became more flexible instead of melting. Under extreme cold, it generated its own warmth. What shouldn't be possible? Asked Kyung-soo Nam, entering the lab with a cup of coffee and a frustrated expression. This hull material from the Krillian ships. According to every test I've run, it should collapse under its own weight, but here it is, perfectly stable. She held up the sample. How's the computer integration going? Kyung-soo groaned and sat down heavily. 17 different computer languages. Some of them don't even use binary code. The Thaxian systems use some kind of quantum probability matrices. The Vorthak computers think in patterns that hurt my brain to look at. But you're making progress? Actually, yes. Kyung-Soo's frustration turned to excitement. I found something interesting. Human programming languages are simple compared to these alien systems, but that simplicity makes them universal. I can write human code that translates alien commands into other alien languages. Heijin put down her sample. You're using human code as a translator between alien systems? Exactly. Like having English speakers help a Chinese person talk to a Russian. The English speaker doesn't need to be smarter than either of them. They just need to understand both languages well enough to pass messages back and forth. Across the facility, Yeonwoo Song was having his own breakthrough. The interface design lab was filled with screens showing incompatible alien control systems. Some used touch, others responded to thought, and a few seemed to work through methods that human science couldn't explain. The problem, he told his assistant Ji-hee Kim, is that every species designed their interfaces for their own biology. Krillians have 4 arms and can think in parallel streams. Thaxians see in 17 different spectrums of light. Vorthaks have nerve clusters in their limbs that let them feel electromagnetic fields. So we can't use their interfaces, Ji-hee said. Not directly. But what if we don't try to copy them? What if we build something new that can talk to all of them? Yeonwoo pulled up his latest design on the main screen. It looked like a chair surrounded by floating holographic displays. The seat could adjust to fit different body types. The displays could show information in any visual format needed. A neural interface headband could read basic human thought patterns and translate them into commands. One human operator could control systems from multiple alien species at the same time, he explained. We're not trying to be Krillians or Thaxians. We're being human, but in a way that lets us work with their technology. In the weapons analysis section, Dong-wook Lee was learning that alien warfare was far more complex than human combat. Each species had developed weapons based on their own philosophy of battle. Krillian weapons were designed for overwhelming firepower. Thaxian systems focused on precision and efficiency. Vorthak weapons seemed built to inspire fear as much as cause damage. Look at this, he said to his colleague Min Seo Park. They stood before a partially assembled Krillian plasma cannon. The weapon was twice the size of a human tank gun, but its energy output readings were off the charts. This single cannon could destroy a human battleship with one shot. But look at the power requirements, Min Seo pointed out. It would drain the power core of any ship we could build. What if we don't use it at full power? Dong-wook suggested. What if we dial it down to something we can actually supply energy for? The aliens would say that's inefficient. Why build a superweapon if you're not going to use its full potential? Dong-wook grinned. Because humans don't think like that. We take what we can get and make it work. A plasma cannon at 20% power is still better than anything in Earth's arsenal. Meanwhile, Yoon-ji Kang was making discoveries in the materials lab that would change everything. She had been experimenting with combining different alien alloys, trying to understand how they might work together. Traditional metallurgy says this should create a weak, unstable compound, she explained to Hae-jin during their weekly progress meeting. But look at what actually happens. She showed a sample that combined Krillian hull metal with Thaxian energy-conducting materials. The result was a substance that was stronger than either component alone, and it could conduct energy without losing efficiency. It's like the materials want to work together, Yoon-ji continued. Each alien species probably never tried combining their alloys with others because they didn't need to. They had their own metals that worked for their purposes. But humans have always been mixers, Hae-jin realized. We've been combining different materials for thousands of years. Bronze, steel, concrete, modern composites. It's what we do. As the weeks passed, more breakthroughs emerged from different teams. Jin Seo Park in the Power Systems Lab discovered that human fusion reactors could be modified to work with alien energy storage devices. The combination produced more power than either system alone. Sung-ho Lim found that alien navigation systems became incredibly accurate when their data was processed through human mathematical models. Each species had developed navigation based on their home star systems, but human mathematics provided a universal framework that worked anywhere. Bom Yi Woo in engineering made perhaps the most important discovery of all. She found that alien. Systems became more reliable when built with human redundancy principles. "Look at this Thaxian computer core," she explained to Jun-Ho during a facility tour. "It's incredibly advanced, but if any part of it fails, the whole system shuts down. The Thaxians built it to be perfect, so they never planned for failure." "But humans always plan for failure," Jun-Ho said. "Exactly. So I modified the core with backup systems and alternate pathways. Now, if part of it breaks, the computer can route around the damage and keep functioning. It's not as elegant as the original Thaxian design, but it's much more likely to survive in a real crisis." By the end of the second month, the teams were no longer working on individual components. They were designing integrated systems that combined technologies from multiple species. The weapons team had created hybrid cannons that used Krillian power, Thaxian targeting, and Vorthak energy focusing. The engine team had built drive systems that incorporated the best features from 6 different propulsion technologies, but the real breakthrough came when all the teams started working together. So-Young Park had been analyzing the data from every group, looking for patterns and connections. "We're not building an alien ship," she announced during a major progress meeting. "We're building something entirely new." The main conference room was packed with team leaders from every department. Screens around the room showed designs and test results from weeks of work. Every alien species builds ships based on their own strengths and limitations, So-Young continued. "Krillians build for power because they have massive energy generation capabilities. Thaxians build for precision because they can process information incredibly fast. Vorthaks build for intimidation because their culture values fear as a weapon. But humans?" Jun-Ho asked. "Humans build for survival. We assume things will go wrong, so we plan for it. We assume we'll face enemies stronger than us, so we find ways to be unpredictable. We assume our resources are limited, so we make everything count." Miran leaned forward. "You're saying we should build a human ship that uses alien technology, not an alien ship that humans can operate?" "Exactly. We take the best pieces from each species and combine them in ways that work for us. The result won't be like anything that's ever been built before." As the third month began, construction started on the actual vessel. The ship took shape in a massive assembly bay that had been carved out of the lunar rock. It was unlike any design in human or alien history. The hull used Yunji's hybrid materials, creating armor that was stronger and lighter than anything a single species could produce. The power core combined human fusion with alien energy storage, providing unprecedented power output with built-in safety systems that could prevent catastrophic failures. The weapons systems mixed technologies from multiple species, creating cannons that could switch between different types of energy based on the situation. The computers used Kyung-Soo's translation protocols to make incompatible alien systems work together seamlessly. Most importantly, every system had Bom Yi's redundancy modifications. The ship could lose half its components and still remain functional. It could adapt to damage in ways that would leave alien engineers speechless. As Jun-Ho walked through the ship during its final construction phase, he felt a pride he had never experienced before. This wasn't just a triumph of engineering. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't any single capability, but the ship that emerged from the lunar construction facility looked like nothing that had ever sailed the stars. Its hull curved and twisted in ways that seemed random to alien eyes, but every angle served a purpose. Hybrid materials caught light differently across its surface, creating patterns that shifted and changed as it moved. Captain Hyunwoo An stood on the bridge for the first time, looking out through viewports that used Thaxian transparency technology combined with human ballistic protection. The result was armor that could stop a direct hit from a plasma cannon while remaining perfectly clear. "Ship status report," he called out to his crew. "All systems showing green," reported Chief Engineer Bom Yi Woo from her station. The engineering console was a masterpiece of human-alien integration. Displays from 6 different species showed power levels, system status, and diagnostic information in formats that human minds could understand. "Navigation systems online," called out Seung-Ho Lim. His navigation station combined star charts from 17 different civilizations with human mathematical models. The result was accuracy that surpassed any single species navigation system. "We can plot courses to any known star system with precision measured in meters instead of kilometers." "Weapons systems ready," announced Dong-Wook Lee. The weapons Control station looked like something from a human video game, but it controlled firepower that could destroy cities. All hybrid cannon arrays are charged and calibrated. Communications and sensors operating at full capacity, added So Young Park. Her systems could detect and analyze transmissions in hundreds of alien languages while monitoring space across spectrums that human eyes had never seen. Captain An nodded with satisfaction. After 6 months of construction, the ship designated Indomitable was finally ready for its first real test. But before they could take it into space, they had one more visitor to deal with. Commandant Nexus arrived on schedule, exactly 6 months, after dumping the scrap heap on Luna. His shuttle docked with the human space station, and he strode into the meeting room with the same arrogant confidence he had shown before. "So," he said, looking around at the human delegation, "I assume you are ready to demonstrate your failure and accept your species' limitations." Jun-Ho Kim, now promoted to Admiral, smiled politely. "We're ready to demonstrate something, certainly. Would you like to see what we've built?" Nexus waved a dismissive hand. "I'm sure you've managed to get some systems working. Perhaps you've built a small transport vessel or a basic communications array. The Council will acknowledge any progress you've made before declaring the experiment concluded." "Actually," Admiral Kim said, "we've built a warship." This got Nexus's attention. His 4 arms crossed in what humans had learned was a gesture of skepticism. "Impossible. No Tier 3 species has ever successfully integrated multiple Tier 1 technologies into a functional combat vessel. Would you like to see it?" Nexus followed the human delegation to the observation deck. Through the transparent aluminum windows, the Indomitable hung in space like a metal sculpture. Even at rest, it seemed to move, its hybrid hull materials shifting colors as Luna's reflected light played across its surface. "That is—" Nexus paused, his translator struggling with whatever he was thinking. "What exactly am I looking at?" "A battleship," Captain An said simply. "Built entirely from the scrap you gave us." "Impossible," Nexus repeated, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. "Show me the specifications." So Young Park activated a holographic display that showed the ship's technical details, power output numbers that made Nexus's eyes widen, weapons capabilities that exceeded most Galactic Council vessels, armor strength that approached Dreadnought-class protection. "These readings cannot be accurate," Nexus said. "Would you like to see a demonstration?" Admiral Kim asked. "I demand to see a demonstration," Nexus corrected, "and I demand that it be conducted under combat conditions." Captain An exchanged glances with Admiral Kim. They had hoped for this response. "What do you have in mind?" "Trial by combat," Nexus declared. "Your vessel against a ship from the Galactic Council fleet. If your creation can survive 10 minutes against a real warship, the Council will consider upgrading humanity's classification." "And if we win?" Admiral Kim asked. Nexus made that sound that might have been laughter again. "You won't win. But if by some miracle you do, humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council." "Acceptable," Captain An said immediately. 3 days later, space around Luna filled with alien vessels. Word of the challenge had spread throughout the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species came to witness what most expected to be humanity's humiliating defeat. The Vorthak battlecruiser Dominus took position 10,000 kilometers from the Indomitable. It was a beautiful ship in the way that pure function could be beautiful. Every line spoke of power and efficiency. Its weapons had destroyed rebel fleets. Its shields had never been penetrated by enemy fire. Captain An studied the enemy vessel from his command chair. The bridge around him hummed with quiet activity as his crew made final preparations. Unlike alien bridges that were designed for single-species crews, the Indomitable's command center accommodated human limitations and strengths. "Enemy vessel is charging weapons," reported Dongwook from his station. "They're bringing their main cannon online." "All stations report ready," Bomyi called out from engineering. "Navigation shows clear space in all directions," Seung-ho added. "Communications are monitoring all frequencies," So Young confirmed. Captain An took a deep breath. 6 months of work, humanity's future among the stars, and the pride of his species, all came down to the next few minutes. "Begin evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Let's see what this ship can do." The Dominus opened fire with its primary weapons array. Beams of coherent energy that could slice through asteroids lanced through space toward the human vessel. But the Indomitable was no longer where the targeting computers expected it to be. The ship moved like no alien vessel could move. Instead of the straight-line acceleration that most species used, it twisted and spun through space, its hybrid engines allowing maneuvers that should have been impossible for something its size. "Return fire," Captain On ordered. The Indomitable's weapons didn't fire in the patterns that Vorthak tactical computers expected. Instead of a concentrated barrage from a single type of weapon, the ship unleashed a chaotic mix of energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic particles that came from different points on its hull. The Vorthak shields, designed to handle the predictable attack patterns of known weapon types, struggled to adapt to the hybrid assault. Energy that should have been deflected penetrated through gaps in their defenses. "Target their engine sections," Dongwook called out. "I'm reading weakness in their rear shield matrix." "Negative," Captain On replied. "Target their weapons. We're not here to destroy them, we're here to prove a point." The Indomitable spun around the larger vessel, its weapons systematically disabling the Dominus's gun batteries. The alien ship tried to track its smaller opponent, but the human vessel was simply too unpredictable. When the Vorthaks expected it to move left, it dove down. When they anticipated evasive maneuvers, it charged straight at them. "Their tactical computer can't establish a firing solution," So Young reported. "Our movement patterns don't match any known alien combat doctrine." "Because we're not using alien combat doctrine," Captain On said, "we're fighting like humans." The battle lasted exactly 7 minutes and 32 seconds. It ended when the Dominus powered down its weapons and transmitted a surrender signal. The proud Vorthak battlecruiser hung dead in space, all its weapon systems disabled, while the Indomitable circled it like a predator, deciding whether to finish its prey. In the observation deck of the space station, Commandant Nexus stared at the tactical displays in stunned silence. Around him, alien representatives from across the galaxy murmured in languages that no human translator could understand. "How?" Nexus finally asked. Admiral Kim smiled. "You gave us technology from 17 different species. Each species designed their weapons and defenses to fight against enemies they understood. But no one has ever faced a ship that combines all 17 approaches at once." "The Dominus is a superior vessel," Nexus protested. "More powerful, better armed with a crew, trained in countless battles." "All true," Captain On said, joining them on the observation deck. "But it was designed to fight other alien ships. It was programmed to expect predictable patterns and logical tactics. We didn't fight it the way it expected to be fought." "You fought dirty," Nexus accused. "We fought human," Admiral Kim corrected. "We used every advantage we could find, adapted to every situation as it developed, and refused to follow rules that would put us at a disadvantage." Nexus looked out at the Indomitable as it returned to dock with the space station. "This changes everything," he said quietly. "Yes," Admiral Kim agreed. "It does." Word of the battle spread across the galaxy at the speed of faster-than-light communications. The impossible had happened. A Tier 3 species had not only built a functional warship from discarded alien technology, but had used it to defeat one of the most advanced vessels in the Galactic Council fleet. Some species were impressed. Others were worried. A few were terrified. But all of them now understood that humanity was no longer a minor species at sea. News of humanity's victory over the Dominus spread through the galaxy like wildfire. In the 3 weeks following the battle, the Indomitable had become the most famous ship in known space. Some called it a miracle of engineering. Others called it a dangerous precedent that threatened the established order. Captain Hyun-Woo-on stood in the communications room of Luna Base, watching incoming messages scroll across the screens. Diplomatic requests, scientific inquiries, trade proposals, and threats arrived hourly from dozens of different species. "The Krillian Empire wants to examine our hybrid metallurgy techniques," So Young Park reported, translating the latest batch of messages. "The Thaxian Republic is offering to share their advanced mathematics in exchange for our fusion quantum power core designs." "And the threats?" Admiral Kim asked. 17 different species have formally protested our technology integration." "Methods," So Young continued. "They claim we're violating the natural order of technological development. The hegemony has demanded that we surrender the Indomitable for proper disposal." Admiral Kim frowned. The hegemony was a military alliance of the galaxy's most aggressive species. They had maintained power for centuries by ensuring that only approved technologies remained in circulation. A ship like the Indomitable represented everything they opposed. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" he asked. "They're deliberating," So Young said diplomatically. "Apparently, our victory has created some administrative difficulties. They don't have a classification system for species that can integrate multiple Tier 1 technologies." Captain Ahn smiled grimly. "Bureaucrats are the same everywhere, I suppose. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent signal from the Indomitable's bridge. Shung-Ho Lim's voice crackled through the communicator. "Captain, we're detecting a massive fleet approaching the edge of the solar system. Configuration suggests hegemony vessels." "How many ships?" Captain Ahn asked. 12 dreadnoughts and approximately 60 support vessels," Shung-Ho replied. "Admiral, I think they're here to finish what the Dominus started." Admiral Kim and Captain Ahn exchanged grim looks. They had known this moment would come. The hegemony couldn't allow humanity's technological breakthrough to inspire other species. If word spread that different technologies could be successfully combined, the entire galactic power structure would collapse. "All personnel to battle stations," Admiral Kim ordered, "and get me a direct line to Earth Defense Command." As alarms echoed through Luna Base, Captain Ahn headed for his ship. The Indomitable had proven itself against a single opponent, but facing an entire fleet would be different. The crew understood the odds, but their confidence remained unshaken. They had built something that wasn't supposed to exist, and they had made it work when everyone said it was impossible. On the ship's bridge, the crew worked with the calm efficiency that came from months of training with their hybrid systems. The integration of alien technologies had required them to develop new procedures for everything, but the result was a level of coordination that no single species crew could match. "Fleet composition analysis complete," Dong-Wook reported from his weapon station. "Lead vessel is the Hegemony Dreadnought Annihilator commanded by Admiral Korvax. That ship alone has enough firepower to destroy a small moon." "Estimated time to engagement?" Captain Ahn asked. 4 hours at their current approach speed," Shung-Ho answered. "They're taking their time, probably expecting us to surrender or flee." "Engineering status?" Bamye looked up from her console, where streams of data showed the status of every system on the ship. "All hybrid systems are functioning within normal parameters. Power core is running at 60% capacity with full reserves available. Damage control teams are standing by." Captain Ahn nodded. The ship was as ready as they could make it. But even the Indomitable couldn't fight 72 enemy vessels and win through conventional tactics. "So, Young, any response from our diplomatic channels?" "The Galactic Council is calling for calm and restraint," she reported, "which means they're going to watch us get destroyed and then express regret about the unfortunate incident." "What about the other species? Any of them willing to help?" "Some are interested in our technology, but none are willing to fight the hegemony for it. We're on our own." Captain Ahn walked to the main view screen, where the approaching enemy fleet appeared, as tiny dots of light against the star field. Each of those dots represented a ship, with enough firepower to level cities. Together, they formed an armada that had conquered rebellions and crushed entire civilizations. But as he watched the enemy approach, Captain Ahn felt something that surprised him: anticipation. The Indomitable wasn't just a ship built from alien scrap. It was proof that human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. Today, they would find out just how far that ingenuity could take them. "Attention all hands," he announced over the ship's communication system. "In a few hours, we're going to face the largest fleet ever assembled against a single vessel. The enemy expects us to be afraid. They expect us to run or surrender. They expect us to act like every other species they've conquered." He paused, looking around at his bridge crew. These people had spent months learning to operate systems that had never been designed to work together. They had taken impossible challenges and turned them into routine procedures. "But we're not every other species," he continued. "We're human. We don't surrender when the odds are against us. We don't run when enemies outnumber us. We adapt, we improvise, and we find ways to win that no one expects." Throughout the ship, crew members listened to their captain's words while making final preparations for battle. In engineering, Tae-Min-Oh supervised teams that had trained to repair battle damage using parts from multiple alien technologies. In the weapons bays, young Mi Li calibrated systems that could switch between 17 different types of energy based on tactical requirements. As the enemy fleet drew closer, their formation became clear. The 12 dreadnoughts formed the center of their battle line, with smaller vessels arranged in protective screens around them. It was a classic hegemony formation, designed to maximize firepower while protecting their most valuable ships. "They're not expecting resistance," Dongwook observed. "Look at their approach vector. They're planning to position themselves around Luna and demand our surrender." Signal from the lead vessel, So Young reported. "Admiral Korvax wishes to speak with whoever is in command. Put him through," Captain On ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the Annihilator. Admiral Korvax was a hegemony veteran whose species resembled armored reptiles. Scars covered his scaled hide, and his eyes held the cold calculation of someone who had never known defeat. "Captain of the human vessel," Korvax began, his voice carrying the authority of absolute power. "I am Admiral Korvax of the Hegemony Fleet. You will immediately surrender your ship and submit to Hegemony authority. I'm Captain On of the Earth vessel Indomitable," On replied calmly. "On what authority do you make this demand?" "On the authority of galactic stability," Korvax answered. "Your species has developed dangerous technologies that threaten the B or established order. The hegemony will not allow such disruption to continue." "Dangerous technologies like fixing broken alien equipment?" Korvax's expression hardened. "You mock the natural order of technological development. Each species should advance according to their capabilities, not by stealing the achievements of their superiors." "We didn't steal anything," Captain On said. "You threw it away and we fixed it. Regardless, your experiments end here. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated according to galactic conventions. Resist, and your ship will be destroyed along with everyone aboard." Captain On looked around his bridge at the crew that had made the impossible possible. They had turned alien scrap into the most advanced warship in the galaxy. They had defeated a Vorthak battlecruiser when everyone said they would fail. Now, they faced odds that were literally impossible to overcome. "Admiral Korvax," he said, "you seem to have made a fundamental error in your calculations. Explain." "You're assuming we're going to fight you the way you expect to be fought." Korvax's eyes narrowed. "Your single vessel against my fleet? The outcome is predetermined regardless of your tactics." Captain On smiled. That's what the captain of the Dominus thought too. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of hybrid systems that had never existed before humans learned to combine incompatible technologies. "All stations report ready for combat," Bom Yi announced. "Enemy fleet is moving into attack formation," Shung Ho reported. "They're spreading out to prevent us from escaping." "Weapons charged and targeting systems online," Dongwook confirmed. "Communications monitoring all enemy frequencies," So Young added. Captain On settled into his command chair and looked out at the approaching fleet. 72 ships against one. Overwhelming firepower against innovative engineering. Predictable tactics against human adaptability. "Take us to battle stations," he ordered. "And remember, we're not trying to destroy them all. We just need to prove that the old ways of thinking about warfare are wrong." The Indomitable moved toward the enemy fleet, its hybrid hull reflecting starlight in patterns that confused alien sensors. Behind it, Luna Base held its breath as humanity prepared to face its G. The battle lasted 6 hours and became the most analyzed military engagement in galactic history. Against all predictions, the single human vessel had not only survived the Hegemony fleet's assault, but had systematically disabled 47 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Admiral Korvax himself had been forced to retreat when the Indomitable's unpredictable attacks overwhelmed his flagship's defenses. Now, 3 months later, Captain Hyunwoo An stood in the conference room of Luna Base, watching holographic displays. That showed the political upheaval spreading across the galaxy. The impossible victory had sent shockwaves through every major civilization. "Status report from our diplomatic channels," Admiral Kim requested. So Young Park activated the latest intelligence summaries. "The Galactic Council has been in emergency session for 2 weeks. Half the member species are demanding immediate access to our technology integration methods. The other half want us classified as a dangerous rogue state." What about individual species responses? The Krillian Empire has formally requested a technology sharing agreement. They're offering access to their most advanced energy generation systems in exchange for our hybrid integration techniques. So Young highlighted another section of data. The Thaxian Republic wants to establish a joint research facility. They believe our adaptive programming methods could revolutionize their computer science. And the hostile responses. The hegemony has declared us a threat to galactic stability. They're trying to build a coalition to contain human expansion. So far, they have support from 8 species, but they're having trouble convincing others that we're actually dangerous. Captain An smiled grimly. Hard to argue that we're dangerous when we've been offering to share our discoveries with anyone, who asks. Admiral Kim pulled up another display showing ship construction data. Speaking of sharing, how's the construction program progressing? Chief Engineer Bom Yi-woo joined them from the shipyard observation deck. Her clothes were stained, with lubricants and metal dust, evidence of the constant work happening in Luna's expanded facilities. Better than expected, she reported. We've completed 4 ships of the Indomitable class, and 6 more are in various stages of construction. Each one incorporates improvements based on combat data from the hegemony engagement. Are they identical to the Indomitable? Captain An asked. Not exactly. That's one of the advantages of our hybrid approach. We can customize each ship for different mission profiles while maintaining the core integration technologies. Bom Yi pulled up technical specifications. The Resilient specializes in electronic warfare and communications disruption. The Defiant is optimized for close-quarters combat. The Relentless focuses on long-range engagement. All using the same basic principles: adaptive integration, redundant systems, and unpredictable tactical capabilities, Bom Yi confirmed. But each ship fights differently. Even if an enemy figures out how to counter one of our vessels, that knowledge won't help them against the others. Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent signal from the communications center. The technician on duty looked worried as he patched through an encrypted message. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Defense. Command. Intelligence indicates that a new hegemony fleet is being assembled. Estimated size, over 200 vessels, including their newest dreadnought designs. Admiral Kim frowned. Timeline? Unknown, sir, but our sources suggest they're planning something much larger than the last engagement. The hegemony leadership is calling it the final solution to the human problem. Captain An exchanged glances with his colleagues. They had known this was coming. The hegemony couldn't allow humanity's success to inspire other species. If the galaxy learned that technological barriers could be overcome through innovation rather than conquest, the entire power structure would collapse. Any word on potential allies? Admiral Kim asked. So Young consulted her diplomatic files. The situation is complicated. Many species are interested in our technology, but they're afraid of hegemony retaliation. We have informal support from the Krillian Empire and the Thaxian Republic, but no formal military alliances. What about the species that actually want to learn from us? That's where things get interesting, So Young said, pulling up a new data set. We've received requests from 43 different civilizations asking for technical assistance. They want to send their engineers to study our integration methods. Admiral Kim leaned back in his chair, thinking. How many of those requests are legitimate? According to our analysis, at least 30 are genuine. Species that have been stagnant for centuries suddenly see possibilities they never considered before. Boram Seo, the chief scientist, entered the conference room carrying a tablet full of research data. Her team had been analyzing the broader implications of humanity's technological breakthrough. Admiral, I have the preliminary results from our Galactic Technology Survey, she announced. The findings are remarkable. Go ahead. We've identified over 200 instances where alien technologies could be successfully integrated using our methods. The galactic community has been sitting on solutions to problems they didn't even know existed. Boram activated a holographic display showing potential technology combinations. For example, Krillian energy systems combined with Thaxian computational matrices could create power grids that automatically optimize themselves. Vorthak metallurgy integrated with hegemony manufacturing could produce materials that are literally indestructible. Why hasn't anyone tried this before? Captain An asked. Cultural barriers, Boram explained. Each species developed along separate paths and became convinced that their way was the only way. They never considered that different approaches might complement each other. But humans have always been integrators, Admiral Kim observed. Exactly. We've been combining technologies, cultures, and ideas for our entire history. When we encountered alien technology, we naturally tried to make it work with what we already knew. Chan Woo-young, the research director, joined the discussion via holographic projection from his laboratory. Admiral, I've been working with our alien contacts on practical applications. The results are extraordinary. Show me. Chan Woo's image gestured, and new displays appeared around the room. We've helped the Krillian Empire increase their energy output by 30% by integrating their systems with Thaxian efficiency protocols. The Thaxian Republic has improved their computer processing speed by combining their hardware with human programming techniques. And in return, they're sharing advanced research that's accelerating our own development by decades. We're not just building better ships, Admiral. We're creating an entirely new approach to technological advancement. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Humanity hadn't just built a better warship. They had accidentally triggered a revolution in how the galaxy thought about innovation and progress. The hegemony understands what's happening, Admiral Kim said finally. That's why they're preparing such a massive response. This isn't just about destroying our ships. It's about stopping an idea that could change everything. In-young Cho, their diplomatic liaison, had been monitoring communications channels throughout the meeting. Now she looked up with an expression of mixed excitement and concern. Admiral, I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. The hegemony's recruiting efforts are failing. Instead of joining their coalition against us, more species are requesting technical assistance from Earth. How many? 17 species have formally approached the Galactic Council requesting mediation for technology-sharing agreements with humanity. Another 23 have sent direct diplomatic messages. What about the hegemony response? They're threatening sanctions against any species that cooperates with us. But so far, only their traditional allies are supporting them. Captain An walked to the observation window, looking out at the construction yards where new ships were taking shape. Each vessel represented not just human engineering, but a collaboration between human innovation and alien knowledge. We're at a crossroads, he said. The galaxy is choosing between the old way of thinking and something completely new. And the hegemony won't let that choice be made peacefully, Admiral Kim added. No, Captain An agreed. They can't. If other species learn that they can break free from technological limitations, the hegemony's power ends forever. Bom Yi looked up from her construction reports. How long do we have? Our intelligence suggests 6 months before the hegemony fleet is ready, So Young replied. Maybe less if they decide to attack before all their ships are assembled. Then we have 6 months to prepare for the most important battle in galactic history, Admiral Kim said. Not just for humanity, but for every species that wants the freedom to innovate and grow. As the meeting broke up, Captain An remained at the observation window. In the distance, the Indomitable docked at its maintenance bay, its hybrid hull reflecting the light of Earth's sun. Around it, construction continued on vessels that would either secure humanity's place among the stars or become monuments to a brief moment when one species dared to challenge the established order. The aliens had given them scrap, expecting them to fail. Instead, humanity had used that scrap to build something that threatened to remake the entire galaxy. The question, the day of reckoning, arrived exactly 6 months after the first hegemony defeat. Admiral Korvax returned to the solar system with a fleet that darkened the space between Mars and Jupiter. 300 ships formed the largest military armada. In recorded galactic history, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire star systems. Admiral Jun-Ho Kim stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the Unbreakable, watching the enemy fleet take position. Around him, the command crew worked with the calm efficiency that had become humanity's trademark. Each station represented technologies from multiple alien civilizations, seamlessly integrated through human innovation. Fleet status report, he requested. Captain Su-Jin Beck looked up from her tactical display. All 18 human vessels are in position. The Indomitable leads the center formation. The Resilient and Defiant anchor our flanks. Electronic warfare ships are distributed throughout the formation. What about our allies? 47 vessels from 12 different species have joined us, reported Commander Minho Yu from the communications station. Krillian Empire contributed 8 heavy cruisers. Thaxian Republic sent 12 precision strike vessels. The rest are volunteers from species that want to break free from hegemony control. Admiral Kim nodded. In the months following humanity's first victory, word had spread that technological limitations could be overcome. Species that had been stagnant for centuries suddenly saw possibilities they had never imagined. The hegemony's attempt to suppress this knowledge had only accelerated its spread. "Signal from the enemy flagship," Commander Yu announced. "Admiral Korvax wants to speak. Put him through." The main screen showed the bridge of the massive dreadnought Final Authority. Admiral Korvax looked older than he had 6 months ago, his scaled hide marked by new scars. Behind him, tactical displays showed the overwhelming size of his fleet. "Admiral Kim," Korvax began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute conviction, "you see the force assembled against you. 300 ships, the finest vessels from the most advanced military civilizations in the galaxy. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive under hegemony supervision." "Admiral Korvax," Kim replied calmly, "you seem to have learned nothing from our previous encounters." "I learned that human arrogance knows no bounds," Korvax snapped. "Your 18 ships against my 300. Even your impossible technologies cannot overcome such odds." "You're still thinking like every other species in the galaxy," Admiral Kim said. "You assume that because you have more ships, you'll win. You assume that because your technology is newer, it's better. You assume that because you've always won before, you'll win again. Those assumptions are based on mathematical certainty." Admiral Kim smiled. "The mathematics changed when humans entered the equation." The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of systems that had never existed. "Before humanity learned to combine incompatible technologies, all stations report ready," Captain Beck announced. "Enemy fleet is beginning their approach," Commander Yu added. "Standard hegemony formation, dreadnoughts in the center, heavy cruisers on the flanks, destroyers screening for smaller vessels." "Predictable," Admiral Kim observed. "Gaeyun, are the modifications ready?" Master Engineer Gaeyun Ryu looked up from her station where streams of data showed the status of every human ship in the fleet. "All vessels are equipped with rapid reconfiguration systems. We can transform our ship layouts in real time during combat." "Excellent. Let's show them what adaptability really means." The battle began with the hegemony fleet's standard opening move. A massive coordinated barrage designed to overwhelm enemy defenses through sheer firepower. Energy beams that could crack planets lanced through space toward the human formation. But the human ships weren't where the targeting computers expected them to be. Instead of maintaining formation, they scattered in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully coordinated. The indomitable dove below the plane of battle, while the resilient spiraled around the enemy's flank. Smaller vessels darted between capital ships like fighters, their hybrid shields deflecting weapons that should have destroyed them instantly. "First wave ineffective," reported Commander Yu. "Enemy targeting systems can't track our movement patterns." "Begin Phase 2, Admiral Kim ordered. The human ships suddenly stopped evading and formed new attack formations. But these weren't the formations they had started with. During the opening moments of battle, Gaeyun's teams had reconfigured the vessel's internal layouts, transforming defensive ships into assault platforms and turning electronic warfare vessels into heavy gunships. "Impossible," came Korvax's voice over the open communication channel. "Ships cannot change their fundamental configuration during combat." "Human ships can," Admiral Kim replied calmly. The Defiant, which had appeared to be a standard cruiser, suddenly revealed weapons arrays that shouldn't have been able to fit within its hull. The Relentless split apart into 3 separate sections that attacked from different directions before rejoining. The Resilient created holographic duplicates of itself that confused enemy sensors. But the real surprise came when the Allied ships joined the attack. The Krillian vessels, equipped with human integration technology, combined their massive energy output with Thaxian precision targeting. Thaxian ships used human adaptive programming to optimize their systems in real time. Volunteer vessels from a dozen species fought with coordination that no one had thought possible. "This is not random innovation," Admiral Kim announced to the enemy fleet. "This is the future of galactic civilization. Species working together, combining their strengths, Adapting to any challenge. The hegemony fleet, designed for overwhelming individual opponents, struggled to adapt to enemies that refused to fight by established rules. Their tactical computers, programmed with centuries of successful strategies, couldn't process the chaotic creativity of human-influenced warfare. Admiral Korvax's dreadnought charged toward the Unbreakable, its massive guns preparing to end the battle with a single devastating attack. But as it closed range, the human flagship did something no ship had ever done before. It transformed. The Unbreakable's hull sections rearranged themselves, revealing hidden weapon systems and defensive arrays. Its single massive reactor split into multiple smaller cores that made it impossible to disable with a single hit. Its bridge moved to a new location, while decoy command centers confused enemy targeting. "You cannot defeat the natural order," Korvax transmitted as his ship's weapons charged. "We're not defeating it," Admiral Kim replied. "We're evolving it." The Unbreakable didn't try to match the Dreadnought's firepower. Instead, it used weapons from 17 different alien civilizations in combinations that had never been tested. Energy patterns that confused hegemony shields, plasma configurations that disrupted their targeting systems, exotic particles that interfered with their communications. The massive enemy vessel found itself fighting an opponent that seemed to change tactics every few seconds. When Korvax adapted to one attack pattern, the human ship switched to something completely different. When his defenses aligned to counter specific weapons, the Unbreakable revealed entirely new offensive systems. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the hegemony fleet was scattered across the solar system. Most ships had been disabled, rather than destroyed, their crews alive but their vessels powerless. Admiral Korvax's flagship drifted dead in space, all its systems shut, down by weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate its defenses. But the real victory wasn't military. As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. Species that had been isolated for millennia began reaching out to each other. Technologies that had been jealously guarded for centuries were shared freely. Innovation that had been stagnant for eons suddenly exploded with new possibilities. 1 month after the battle, Admiral Kim stood in the conference room of Luna Base, watching reports from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had been reorganized. The hegemony's power was broken, and humanity had been asked to help coordinate the greatest technological exchange in galactic history. "Status report from our integration teams," he requested. BORAM SEO activated the latest data displays. "We have active technology sharing programs with 87 different species. Cross-pollination of ideas is happening faster than we can track. New innovations are being developed daily. Examples? The Krillians and Thaxians have created a joint colony ship that can sustain itself indefinitely. 3 minor species have developed a communication network that spans the entire galaxy. The former hegemony worlds are building hybrid industrial systems that are more efficient than anything that existed before. What about Earth? We're being invited to establish research stations throughout the galaxy. Dozens of species want permanent human presence to help facilitate ongoing integration projects." Admiral Kim walked to the observation window, looking out at the construction yards where new ships were being built. But these weren't just human vessels. They were collaborative efforts involving multiple species, each one representing a different approach to combining technologies. "The galaxy is changing," he said. "Yes, sir," BORAM agreed. "The old barriers between species are breaking down. Ideas are flowing freely.